Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Around Town. Tonight, we're going to be talking to one of our special restaurants right here in Old Town Orange. It's called PJ's Abbey. We're talking to the owner, Gary Mead, and we're going to find out all about his restaurant, the history of the restaurant, and then we're going to talk about his art. He's also a wonderful artist, and find out what inspires him. And then we're going to talk about his new special project. It makes me go, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And the cake's great. So we're looking forward to talking with Gary, and we've got a great show for you, so stay with us. We're here with Gary Mead from PJ's Abbey Restaurant in Old Town Orange, and we're so glad to have you here on the show to talk a little bit about your restaurant and all of the things that you've got going on there.
Welcome, Gary.
Thank you.
Such an interesting place. Tell us a little bit about the actual story that's behind your restaurant. It's in a historic church building that's over 100 years old. What made you think that there'd be a great venue in it to be a restaurant?
Well, before I tell you about the restaurant, I have to tell you about the history that led up to the restaurant. We first had PJ Mead's on Cambridge Street, which we started at about 1991. We were in a small kind of grocery store that we developed into a really cool kind of bookstore, art gallery, and a coffee shop. We were tremendously successful, but the problem was that we had no parking. So subsequently, one day I was traveling down Almond Street, and I saw a for sale sign out in front of a church, and I'd never seen that before.
Oh, wow.
So I stopped, and I got out, and I walked around, and I looked at it, and it was a magnificent old building.
Oh, yeah, I've been there, I know. It's beautiful.
It was in very bad disrepair. But I grabbed my cell phone, and I called my wife, PJ, and I said, hey, sweetie, I got this great idea. Let's buy a church.
Wow.
First thing she said to me is, have you checked with your therapist lately?
Right.
And after that, I said, hey, grab Gary and come on down. Gary is my son.
Your son.
Our son. And come on down. It's on the corner of Almond and Orange. So they came down, and we walked around, and we saw the great potential for a building that was historically over 100 years old.
Wow. And while you were looking at this church, you had the successful PJ Mead's.
Right. The coffee shop
So you already had a little bit of a background in the food service industry.
Right. However, making the change from PJ Mead's to PJ's Abbey was like going from kindergarten to calculus.
Oh, wow.
Right, the
size. We were a small little coffee shop, and we took on the opportunity to have a very large restaurant that holds about 108 people in the front section and 55 people in the dining room in the back, and another 30 on the patio and another 20 inside the small bar we have inside there.
Wow.
So it was exponentially larger than what we thought.
So was there a lot of repair work that you had to do? Was it in good shape?
No, it was in very poor shape. We had to, first off, bring the building up to code. So our first challenge was getting a use permit from the city. So we had to make application and then turn in all the plans and then go in front of the city council, which we got approval. It was a very difficult it was a very difficult chore
process
to go from a church to a restaurant.
Right.
And we had contacted the Baptists that owned the building, and we made them an offer, and they took it. And we told them what we were going to do, that we were going to change it into a restaurant. And they were of the opinion that it had been on the market for 2 years, and nobody wanted it.
I remember driving past it for several years.
Yeah, it was. It's a great building. It's a Gothic Victorian style building, and it has a history that goes back to the beginning of Orange. Not only was it built by the parishioners who bought the building and then constructed the church itself. It also has served for Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, celebrations,
So it's a
baptisms.
big part of the community.
It has been for a long time. And we've had people come into the restaurant who, we had a man who was 96 who came in for his birthday, and he was baptized there.
Wow.
So it's got a grand history within the community of Orange.
Wow.
It has such a value too, preserving such a history of a whole church community, and actually exposing a whole new generation to what's taken place there.
We have people come in from around the United States who say, this is just like my church back in Ohio, or this is just like my church in New England. And it has that
Old town feeling.
that look to it, and it fits in with the community. We had a lot of people say, well, why are you putting a restaurant in the church? Well, no one else wanted to do anything with it.
Right.
It was going to sit there for a long time. So my family, my son Gary, my wife PJ, and I sat down and we invested a considerable amount of money into the restoration of that building. But the key issue is we wanted to do it right the first time.
Right.
Rather than go back and say, you know, I wished I would have done something different.
Yeah.
So it took us about 18 months to go from the first time we walked into the door to when we opened the door. And
So you had a lot of foresight,
Well,
and your whole family got involved in it.
right, and the reason we named it PJ is that I thought to myself, you know, if I'm going to invest a lot of our money into a restaurant, I want to name it after my wife, because if it doesn't make it, I want to make sure I did it for her.
Oh, that's sweet.
Kind of like the Taj Mahal.
Yeah,
right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what about the stained glass windows in the church?
Well, the church was first built between 1888 and 1891, and the family of church ordered those windows from Belgium, and they were shipped here and dedicated on Easter Sunday morning in 1891.
Wow.
The church took 3 years to be able to put it all together, and the parishioners had given $3,500 in contributions to buy the initial wood and to acquire the property. When we did the restoration, I had more in the carpet than it cost to build that whole church.
Yeah,
right.
right.
Inflation, et cetera.
Right. So after, now we've been open for about 15 years. We have been involved with the community in all kinds of different aspects. We've had weddings, we've had celebrations, we've had memorials, we've had, in fact, it's a celebration place.
Yes.
When people walk in the
Yeah.
front door, a lot of them have a little package with them, and they're celebrating a birthday or they're celebrating something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah, and it's the feel of the church, and one of your kind of on your information, it's heavenly, have a heavenly meal.
Have a
or
taste
Yeah.
of heaven.
heaven,
right.
yeah.
Well,
yeah.
we've incorporated the theme of the restaurant without getting so involved in a whole bunch of. We've had people suggest different things to us at
Yeah,
time to
I
time.
can imagine,
And
yeah.
we've turned down a lot of suggestions. But the nice thing about it is that it was a church. It's now a restaurant. We have made the conversion, and we do the thing that is outstanding. My wife makes all of the desserts. If you go in there, you'll see the creme brulee, the berry cobbler, the chocolate, the carrot cake, and we are known for her chocolate bread pudding. I think that if she ever stopped making those, we'd have some kind of a small riot.
A little riot.
on
You're
the
right
corner.
here in Old Town Orange.
Right on the corner
Yeah.
of Almond and Orange, yeah.
You might have people with pickets on saying, we want that chocolate.
Yeah,
Dish.
bread pudding, yeah.
Bread pudding,
Well,
yeah.
I hope that doesn't come to that, but right now in this economy, we'd enjoy everybody to come
Right.
to PJ's Abbey right now.
Now, also, you're an artist, and we have some of your art here, and it's displayed beautifully in the main dining room there. Why don't you tell us about how long have you been an artist, and what's your inspiration?
Well, it's kind of a evolutionary process. I first started collecting old hardware. I liked door hinges and knobs, and I liked all of the hardware that went on old doors. So I collected that for quite some time. But then I got the old doors with me, and I didn't know what exactly to do with them. But then one day I thought down, and being from a Scotch background, I thought, hey, I can get a canvas and a frame by just cutting the panels out of the door, and I don't have to have somebody take it down and put a frame. So if you look at some of my paintings, this is the canvas part, and this is the frame, but that's actually a part of an old door. What I do is I saw up the doors, and then I take the panels. And what I was able to do is to incorporate carving, paint, hardware, stained glass, and put them in such a fashion that it would be something different and unique. I've always tried to do with something like the Abbey, something unique.
Yeah, you're a very creative businessman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But the neat part about it is I own the walls, so I can put up my own artwork.
Right.
And if people don't like it, that's
oh well.
Oh well.
It's your restaurant.
It's your, but it's very expressive.
It is.
I think, and it works really well with the church too, because it's got the same tone as the inside of the restaurant.
What I try to do is to do different things too. A lot of my artwork is kind of created out of things that I happen to see, or I see a picture, or I, you know, when I did this angel, for example, I've probably done 10 angels, and the amazing thing about it is people buy them.
Oh,
oh my
love
gosh.
angels.
Yeah.
I mean, angels, PJ's Abbey, church.
Yeah.
It works.
Perfect.
It works.
Yeah.
So I've done several angels. This one happens to be, I don't know what I was thinking at the time. Maybe I was a little full from having lunch, and I was a little remorse because I ate that chocolate bread pudding. Something like that. But you'll find a whole bunch of different techniques. I've used one area in the back dining room. I have about 9 boats back there. And it's funny, when we first started putting them up, I was a little leery of putting up my artwork because I don't know what the response would be. But after my son came and looked at it and he said, "Hey, Dad, it really looks good," I kind of like, hey, that's confidence. When your son said something looks good. So we have put them up inside of the restaurant, and we kind of include that with what's going on. And it's kind of fun to be able to say, that's mine up there. And,
And did you sell it in other stores too, or is it just?
Well, we've had them at several stores. I was honored by having the Leatherby Library hold about 30 of my paintings on display last year.
Great.
And then
At Chapman.
At Chapman, and lo and behold, I sold 5 that day. So
wow,
hey, you know,
that's great.
I might quit my job as a restaurant and become full-time artist.
Yeah,
but,
well, you definitely could do that because it's pretty impressive.
Right, but you're quite the entrepreneur. You've got your expression in several areas. You've got the restaurant business, the art, the restoring a historical building, and any other businesses that you've got up your sleeve. I'm sure you'll let us know. But there's also a new one that we're going to be talking about in the next segment, which I think will really be exciting to a lot of people who want to send well wishes to loved ones who are far away. And we're looking forward to talking with Gary about that.
This has been really interesting, and we're going to be right back.